People are legit probably going to die because of this. That blood will be on your hands, Don Lemon. That blood will be on your hands, Anderson Cooper, Chris Cuomo, all of you. It's on you. Insane. And so I'm sitting here, I'm watching it happen in real time. I'm like, they're not even trying to hide it from us anymore. Oh my God, it blows my mind, dude. So then I wake up the next morning and Facebook, gone. They deleted me completely. They were censoring me the very next day. The First Amendment is dead, you guys. The government has the technology to spread propaganda and misinformation like we've never seen in history. This is legit the Great Reset. It's happening right now. We deserve to know what's really going on. This is the Uncensored Truth. What's up, guys? It's Jeremy with the Uncensored Truth, the podcast designed to free your minds from the grips of the mainstream media by giving you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the uncensored truth. Today, I want to talk about the Derek Chauvin trial and kind of give you my perspective on what I think is going on during this trial, because the mainstream media is lying to you. They're setting us up for a horrible outcome if, for some reason, Derek Chauvin gets acquitted. So I wanted to give you my perspective, kind of give you an update as to what's going on during the trial. First, before I get into that, if this is your first time watching this or listening to this, please subscribe. On YouTube, it's the Uncensored Truth. Please subscribe to the channel. Go to Facebook, like the page. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, please subscribe. And if you could leave us a good review, that would be great. But only do it if you like it. Don't do it if you don't like it, please. I don't want you to lie for me. That's just stupid. It's the best way to support the show. So please, if you have the ability to just go to YouTube, hit subscribe, go to Facebook, hit like, and if you're listening to this on Google Podcasts or Apple Podcasts, please subscribe and then give us a good review if you like it. Only don't lie for me, man. Please don't. We're in trouble here. We are in trouble, and it's because of the Derek Chauvin trial. Now we have the cop who is being charged with George Floyd's death. Now, they believe that this was motivated by race, and there's absolutely zero evidence whatsoever that has shown that this has been motivated by race. I believe the outcome either way is probably going to cause a lot of issues. We're going to see rioting. It's going to be ugly, guys. It's going to be like it was last summer. Now, the problem is the mainstream media is making this way worse than it should be. Now, Tim Pool, I don't know if you know who that is. He has his own podcast, and I listen to it. And he actually had a really good analogy as to how the mainstream media is handling this trial. Picture yourself sitting at home and you're actually listening to a boxing match on the radio. You're not watching it on TV, because if you were watching it on TV, you'd see exactly what was happening, but you're listening to it on the radio. This is essentially what you're doing when you hear the mainstream media talking about the trial. Is you're essentially just listening to it and believing what you hear. Now, the announcers telling you every single time fighter A lands a punch, telling you absolutely nothing about fighter B, but just telling you, oh, fighter A just landed 3 punches, fighter A just landed 2 more punches, blah, blah, blah. By the end of this fight, you believe, no doubt, fighter A is the winner, because fighter B has been getting pounded on this whole time. So at the end of the fight, they announce fighter B as the winner. What is that going to do? You're going to be like, what the fuck? How did that happen? You're not going to expect something like that to happen. Now, if the media, the mainstream media, CNN, MSNBC, all these guys, if they were doing their job correctly, they would be telling you exactly what was going on during this trial. They have offered no evidence. There is zero evidence so far showing that former officer Derek Chauvin's actions were motivated by race whatsoever. Nothing. So I'm going to lay out these charges for you. I'm going to let you know exactly what needs to take place for these charges to bring forth a conviction, and then we'll talk about what's happening during this trial to see if, what the potential outcome could be. There's 3 charges against Derek Chauvin right now. You've got second-degree murder, you've got third-degree murder, and then you have manslaughter. Second-degree murder requires that the prosecutor prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Derek Chauvin intentionally killed George Floyd while committing a felony. And in this case, felony assault. Now, assault requires that he was intentionally trying to hurt George Floyd, cause harm to him, as opposed to just doing a suppression maneuver or tactic to hold him in place, one that was taught to him by the Minneapolis Police Department. Now, third-degree murder requires that the prosecution prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Chauvin was acting in a way that was dangerous to others. An example of that would be like shooting a gun off into a crowded place, and then if for some reason accidentally somebody got hit and died, that would be an example of third-degree murder. Now, again, that doesn't really fit what's going on here whatsoever, but it's a charge they're trying to get, and I don't understand any bit of that whatsoever. Maybe I'll have to do some more research, but I really don't think that's going to fly. Now, the other one is manslaughter. Now, I think this one has the best chance of a conviction, but still, even that has to show that Derek Chauvin acted in a way that was grossly negligent. And in other words, Chauvin would have to know that his actions could potentially harm George Floyd and ultimately lead to his death, which he did not, because he was using tactics that he was taught by the Minneapolis Police Department. Not only that, but we had a witness the other day that came on. They were excessive force specialist, I think is what they were called. I've got to look at the name again to see exactly what that guy's profession was, but essentially he was a specialist in excessive force. So he looked at the situation and said, based off of the actions of what George Floyd was doing, Chauvin had every right to use a taser on George Floyd, but instead used a lesser tactic, meaning he backed off his use of force. He could have done more, but he did less. Therefore, that throws intent out the window 100%. I mean, you're not hearing this on the mainstream media. If the mainstream media was letting you know that one of the key witnesses for the prosecution came on and told the world that Derek Chauvin could have actually done more, but in fact did less than what his job required of him because he wanted to do less harm, then people would be like, oh shit, maybe it's not as bad as it seems. Here's how crazy it is. I don't think that most of America knows how much of a long shot this really is to get a conviction. Now, let's just take cause of death into consideration. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's still question as to whether or not Derek Chauvin was even the legit cause of death here. George Floyd had multiple autopsies. There was an autopsy that said that the cause of death was a fentanyl overdose. There's an autopsy that says that the cause of death was asphyxiation because of what Derek Chauvin was doing. Asphyxiation is one of the leading causes of death when you have a fentanyl overdose as well. So the jury, no pun intended, the jury is still out as to the actual cause of death. So at that point, third-degree murder, second-degree murder, manslaughter, none of that matters whatsoever if the cause of death is determined that it was not even Derek Chauvin. The prosecution, or excuse me, the defense could literally say, yeah, Derek Chauvin's intent was to kill George Floyd. But if they prove that his actions actually didn't kill George Floyd, then it doesn't fucking matter. I guess I don't know how that works. Maybe it would matter? I don't know. I guess I'm looking at that the wrong way. Regardless, if they come to the conclusion that Derek Chauvin didn't even cause George Floyd's death, then it's out, man. It doesn't matter. And I don't think people understand that. I think everybody or most of the people out there who just believe the news believe that the cause of death was Chauvin. And even at that point, let's say no matter what, they do prove that the cause of death was Chauvin. Then these other things come into play. Well, did it happen intentionally or did it happen because of gross negligence? Like, it's going to be hard to prove any of those, even if the cause of death is proven to be Derek Chauvin. Most people probably don't even know that he was high on fentanyl. He had a lot of fentanyl in his system and methamphetamines. So at the time of this arrest, there was two people in the car. The other person is believed to have been his drug dealer, the guy who provided him with these drugs. Now, there's a theory out there that the police showed up and George Floyd was scared, so he took all the drugs he had on him and just swallowed them. And that's why he was ODing, and that's why he died, because he had too much, swallowed it all to get it away from the police, and then died of an overdose shortly afterwards, because they were there for a long time. They arrested him, put him in the back of the cop car, and while he was in the cop car, he started freaking out while he was sitting up, being left alone in this car. He said, "Please, crack a window, I can't breathe. And then finally, when he wouldn't cooperate with them, they pleaded with him, "Please, just stop. We want to," whatever. They wanted to take him to jail. And then they ended up pulling him out of the car and calling for backup because he would not cooperate. He was kicking at the door. He wouldn't let him shut the door. So they took him out of the vehicle and onto the ground. And here's another thing you're not hearing from the mainstream media, but there is also video footage where he's on the ground and he says, "I ate too many drugs." I don't know for sure if that's what he said. It sounds like he said that. It sounds like he said, "I ate too many drugs," which would fit the theory that he was in his car when the police showed up and he swallowed a bunch of drugs because he didn't want the cops to find the drugs. And if he did indeed take these drugs to hide them from the police and then OD'd and died, that's a drug overdose. Game over. We're done. But again, that's for the jury to decide. That's for them to figure out on their own. My point is, the mainstream media is not telling you these things. So you believe that it's just a slam dunk case for the prosecution. Derek Chauvin's a racist and he killed him intentionally. And that's it. But when you find out later on that all of a sudden, if this happens, that he's acquitted, you guys are going to freak out. Everybody's going to freak out, and it's going to be really, really bad. And I'm trying to stop that from happening. I know a lot of people don't watch this or listen to this, but just spread the word, guys. Tell people to do research before they act. Because if they know the law, if they know the way all of this shit works, they're going to understand that there's a real good chance that he's not going to be convicted of murder or manslaughter for that matter. It's going to be very hard to convict him on any of these three charges. Now, what happens when he gets acquitted and the whole world is expecting him to be guilty? It's going to be bad, you guys. We're talking nationwide, all-out fucking war. It's going to be ugly. I don't want to say that word war because that is an ugly word, but it's terrifying to think about what's going to happen, especially after we saw what happened last summer with all these cities burning and businesses destroyed. Now imagine what's going to happen when they acquit him on all three charges. It's going to be crazy, you guys. And it's not necessarily Chauvin's fault. It's not George Floyd's fault. It's CNN's fault. It's MSNBC. It's the media. They're painting a picture. They're setting this up intentionally. They're doing this on purpose. They're setting this up so that it's going to be extremely ugly. People are legit probably going to die because of this, and it's going to be on your hands. That blood will be on your hands, Don Lemon. That blood will be on your hands, Anderson Cooper, Rachel Maddow, I think is how you say it, Chris Cuomo, all of you. It's on you. You had the Marine, the other black guy who was pepper sprayed and just treated horribly by the police. You had his video surface. Now, I don't know the story behind it, but I just know that it's pretty sensitive. Like it's ugly. It makes the cops look really bad. And of course, everybody's screaming racism. But the problem that I have here, that happened back in December. But all of a sudden, right now, this video is surfacing of this military dude that was pulled from his car and pepper sprayed. And, you know, long story short, it seems like the cops overreacted and whatever happened to him wasn't justified. But my point is, that happened a long time ago. It happened in December. But because of the outcome of this case, because of the fact that we're at the peak of what of this trial and a really sensitive moment, now all of a sudden this story comes out, this video surfaces, and it feeds the fuel. It fuels the fire, is what I meant to say. It's bad timing, man, and it will not end good. Businesses are going to be destroyed. Cities will burn again. And unfortunately, I believe that people will die. I believe there's going to be real harm done to people, lots of it. It's going to be bad because this is essentially a race war that will break out because of this. I hate saying that because it's just nasty and a terrifying word, but that's essentially what we're on the brink of right now because the media has set this up I know what the fuck is going on. You guys can't fall for what you're seeing on the news. You need to, the only way you're going to know exactly what's going on is if you just sit there and watch the whole trial. They stream it on YouTube, on a number of different outlets, but you need to watch it yourself. You need to look up the trial notes and just read about what's going on so you know exactly what to expect at the end of this. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't have time to do that. A lot of people don't have the ability to do that. They watch the news still believing that the news is on there to help you, to inform you, and to just let you know what's going on. But that's not what the case is, man. They're victims of the mainstream media here, and it's going to be bad. It's going to cause a lot of hurt, a lot of anger, and a lot of damage, and it's terrifying. Anyways, you just have to look at all the evidence. You have to pay attention, and you stop watching the news. Turn off your fucking TV and do some research. Watch the trial. I mean, if you're really that interested and you're really passionate about what the fuck's going on to the point where you think you're going to burn a city down if you don't get your way, then you need to watch the trial because you're that passionate. See what the hell's going on, and you'll see the whole picture. And it may not be what you think. So just please, I encourage everybody to watch the trial as it's happening. I think right now the defense is starting to call their witnesses. I think that started just yesterday, so we'll see how that goes. But I mean, it's not going well for the prosecution, but you're not going to see that on the news. They're going to make it seem as though it's a slam dunk case and it's pretty much over. But no, now the defense is going to call their witnesses, and I have a feeling that this is going to end in an acquittal. I've been saying this from the beginning, and if it does, it's going to be really bad. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Please check us out on YouTube, Uncensored Truth. Subscribe if you can. Please just click that subscribe button real quick. It's the best way to support the show. And then go check out Mic Drop, Mildly Intelligent Conversations on YouTube. Subscribe to that as well. Check out both Facebook pages and start following that shit. Go to Twitter and start following that shit. And then if you're listening to this on either Apple Podcast or Google Podcast, please subscribe and leave us a good review. And then for those of you who are extremely rich and wealthy and just balling, please go to The Truth Hero on PayPal and give us some money, man. Help us out. Help us get cool shit like this glow-in-the-dark fucking microphone. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about again today, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. And until the next time, keep your eyes open because there's some shit going on. See ya.